Now, welcome to another Aggressive Negotiations, where today we'll be debating what is the way. Is Bo-Katan's way more correct, or is Din Djarin's way more correct, or is it somewhere in the middle? And I'll kind of be taking the Din Djarin side today.
And I will be taking Bo-Katan's side.
Okay.
Because Bo was better.
Well, Bo's way has left her alone on a world, sitting on a cold, empty throne with only a droid to keep her company. Other than Din popping by everybody so often to tell her what the right way is.
But she's learning. She has so much experience with the majority of the people of Mandalore. We can't forget the Way is a splinter group.
But who is she learning from?
Doesn't matter who she's learning from as long as she wins in the end, right?
What does that mean? We're not necessarily discussing who we think we're going to win, but whose way is correct for Mandalore.
Okay, well, we've learned that Bo's original way, the way of the people we're used to, may not be the way, but...
You're already conceding.
No, I'm not conceding, because I still think currently she is, at the end of the last episode we saw, she is the best choice.
As leader of Mandalore, you mean?
As leader of Mandalore.
But not her philosophy.
Her philosophy is changing. Maybe she's coming at this with a new approach. Maybe she didn't have the best time going into the throne and took on some bad influences.
She kind of did. They left when she couldn't get them the Darksaber to wave around and convince them she's powerful.
But what was she supposed to do against the Empire? She resisted. She said no. And then what did they do? They bombed the planet.
Well, it does seem like it was sort of a no-win scenario against the Empire. And perhaps if we didn't have splinter groups, which seems to be what she's upset about. Mm-hmm. Though she kind of forgets her people went pacifist. Her sister took them that way.
They did.
Which seems like it should get some blame.
It probably should. I mean, if the majority of the citizen population was no longer a combatant, and then the people who were combatants were like, we're leaving.
That's a problem.
I feel like they didn't give Bo enough chance to actually lead.
We don't really know what happens to Bo. We see her get the Darksaber in Rebels, and then I'm assuming shortly thereafter, Night of 1,000 Tears.
It wouldn't have been long.
Yeah, but there's not much space. I mean, there's still about 5-6 years probably for the Empire to survive after that.
Well, at the end of the Clone Wars is when she was, at like the very end, like Order 66 days, when they were like, you are the Regent of Mandalore. That's the day the Empire took over. And then what happened shortly thereafter is they came for her. They came for Mandalore. They said, hey, you got to work with us or else. And she's like, nah, we're Mandalore. We're doing our own thing now. Kind of maybe like her sister.
I think you mean the Jedi made her regent.
Yes.
So the Empire never recognized, as far as we know, the Empire never recognizes her.
Once she and Ahsoka cleared out Maul, at literally the day before Order 66, the Jedi dubbed her the Regent of Mandalore. She was now the leader of the whole planet.
I don't know if you know this or not, but the Jedi weren't around much after that.
No, they weren't. But she barely had a chance to lead.
I don't disagree with that, but she did have a chance. She could have tried to organize her pacifist people better against the Empire. Though, who really knew what the Empire was going to be, right? No one initially knew that even when Palpatine was declared. Well, I think Padme and a few others probably had a good idea what was happening. But a lot of people thought, well, this is what needs to happen right now. Mm-hmm. That this is a good thing. I mean, that's how you convince people to give up their freedoms, that it's for their own safety and protection and well-being and all that. So, I mean, it's a great story, right? The prequel. So, I do get that a lot of people didn't understand the Empire coming to power or the Emperor coming to power was bad. And I don't know where I'm going with that other than...
I'm just saying she didn't get much of a chance. I mean, she took over, she united her people, and then the next day the Empire's knocking on the door saying, hey, we want your people because they're great warriors, and some of them went. Some of the clans did splinter off and got the white armor and became Imperial Super Commandos or something.
Something like that, yeah. They became Boba Fett, original concept Boba Fett, because he was supposed to be like a super commando kind of guy. Mm-hmm. But no, where I was kind of going with that is, like, we don't know how Bo-Katan responded to the Empire initially. Was she someone who was like, yeah, we got to work with these guys? Or was she more, nah, we're not doing that, and that's what caused the splintering? Who knows? We don't exactly have that story yet.
I believe that in remembrance of her sister, probably, and her sister's past ways of wanting to remain neutral, I think she wanted to stay out of it. I think she was done with both sides.
There was seemingly a kind of a revelation with her in those... Actually, at the end of the Satine death arc, whatever you want to call it, with Obi-Wan, you could tell there was already a change when she's speaking to Obi-Wan at the end about how Satine had impacted her, which makes me wonder if she would have been better off just get more hardcore Mandalorian like Din and company.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing. You can't fool me. But the problem was that her hardcore people just abandoned her, and we don't know why.
Well, because she wasn't hardcore enough.
So
She was taking her helmet off. She was not. Maybe she was making deals with the Empire, and that's why they splintered off. Like, we're not gonna. Like, we are Mandalorians. We don't. We aren't subservient to anybody. We don't bow before the Empire. We didn't bow before the Republic. We didn't get involved in their war.
All right, that's true. They didn't. They ran.
They didn't run.
See, but the problem is that Death Watch tried to ally themselves first with the Separatists. And then after Count Dooku's like, yeah, you guys didn't pull through what I wanted, they abandoned them.
Sure. Well, they had to, they needed allies. They were going against the whole of Mandalore.
Yeah, and then they got involved with Maul and the Shadow Collective.
Well, that was dumb.
Yeah, that was dumb.
That was pretty dumb. Because Maul's not a good dude either. Well, Dooku isn't exactly a good dude, but at least Dooku has a little more honor than Maul. Though Maul's not totally without honor.
Well, Maul might have kept his ends of the bargain had Pre Vizsla not betrayed him after the deal was done.
True. That's true, too. But going back to Din, I mean, we see what his people go through. Hell, they get eliminated down to 2 people, down to the Armorer and Paz Vizsla. And yet, here they are, rising up again.
Rebuilding, yeah.
Rebuilding, fighting for each other, loyal to each other, believing in the way.
But even Din's views of the way are changing.
Are they, though?
Well, he went to the planet and said, hey, this place isn't cursed. Maybe he sees a little bit of wisdom in the ways of Bo-Katan.
Maybe. We don't know that. We don't know if he's actually taking anything away from her or if it's just vice versa here. We don't. I mean, Din is still keeping that. It would have been one thing if Din's like, you know what, I'm going to take this helmet off because I'm about to get... The funny thing is he could have just taken the helmet off because he was about to go into the living waters and, redeem himself for all that. So, but anyway, it's like a loophole, I think.
Yeah.
Or you just, every time you want to take your helmet off, like, I'm going to head to the living waters after, so it's
Gotta
okay.
get redeemed real quick.
Yeah. I'm guessing it doesn't quite work that way.
No.
But for me, what happens in that episode is this latest episode, so spoilers. I can't believe you'd be watching us if you hadn't seen it, but what we see is, Bo-Katan more understanding that Din and his ways are what is the strength of her people. That these old stories and these old legends that Din, fully believes and is all on board with actually happened. And it's probably the actual success story of Mandalore, right?
All right.
It's not so much that the royal family made up all these, oh yeah, back in the day there was this mythosaur thing and our great ancestors, they wrote it. And
no, she just started to believe that they weren't real.
Yeah, along the way somewhere the actual royal family started to just see it as something they use to keep the people in line, keep the people believing. They stop believing, and what happens? Your society falls apart.
I blame Satine for all of it.
I mean,
Think about it. Her dad died in the Mandalorian Civil War, and then she takes over, and she's like, we're pacifists. I'm done with all this fighting. Which is what caused the splintering in the groups. Instead of trying to unite the clans after the Civil War, she just let them all go.
There is an argument to be made that is what really caused the fall of Mandalore is Satine going pacifist. Mm-hmm. Which is something a lot of people didn't like in Clone Wars, I know. Because we were... believing from legends and everything that the Mandalorians are this warrior culture, and then the first time we see them, like, the Blandalorians. They're so boring. It was a little strange, I'll admit. I'm like, wait a minute, where Mandalore is a bunch of pacifists now? Yep. How did this happen? Yep. I do wonder if that decision comes about because how do you explain why Mandalore is not a factor during the time of the Empire? Did they join with the Empire? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is it explains why Mandalore is not a big presence. Because they went pacifist, and that was kind of exploited by the Empire. I mean, we can kind of assume... And then they destroyed them. Yeah. It's actually an ingenious way to keep them out of it, because or else people are going, well, why didn't the Mandalorians fight? Yeah, Where were they fighting? Were they on the bad guy side? Where were they? Yeah. What were they doing? Well, no, they were pretty much destroyed because of the fact that they posed a threat. Yeah, because they let go of their ways. So it's actually, I mean, I'm not trying to argue that I love the idea of pacifist Mandalore, but in an odd sort of way, you could argue it is ingenious to make them go pacifist there and have this kind of civil war. And then, oh, dang, the Empire rose at just the wrong time, and here we got kind of slaughtered by them. No, none of this was the design of some dark Sith Lord who overlooks everything. Who was constantly scheming to try and break war out on Mandalore, even when they were pacifists. Yeah. Trying to force them into asking the Republic for help,
which would then
Get him into the war.
get him into the war, and then they could destroy them.
Yeah, so he was always
Always trying to get rid of them.
he was always well aware of the fact that there is another faction that has to be dealt with. That's what he does.
But as to who I think should be leading the Mandalorians coming in the future, I still think it's going to be Bo. I think she's evolving. I think she's learned so much. I think she is going to be the future of the way. I think she's going to meld some of the traditional beliefs of the Mandalore with her style of rule.
Well, again, who is she getting that from? She's getting it from Din. I agree. I don't think Din is going to be the leader of Mandalore.
I don't think he's in the position to.
I think it is going to be Bo, and her story is more about coming to terms with what a real Mandalorian is. The breadcrumbs have already been dropped, right?
Watch, it's going to be Paz just to mess us both up.
I actually said Paz had a very, very good episode. He seemed very leader-ish.
Yes, he did. He did.
He stepped up.
Till Din came in and showed him up.
Yeah, well, sure, there was that. But Paz was a true hero there, I thought. He's stepping in front of people, get the kids to the tunnels, and, he's stepping in front of others. That's what a leader does. They lead. But what's funny is, initially, the last 2 seasons or so, everybody was like, oh, Din needs to stop the helmet thing. Din needs to stop being so with the way. That's what's holding him back. And now it's completely flipped. Now it's like, well, wait a minute. Din's got some points here. Maybe the whole helmet thing is stupid, but everything else I like.
Right.
And I think Bo is going to see that. The helmet thing is,
Rough.
I think it was a stylistic choice. The other day we talked about why does everybody call him Mando? Well, it's a stylistic choice, right? You're trying to do this spaghetti Western thing, and it's the man with no name or the gunslinger with no name kind of deal. I know I'm slaughtering that all, but that was the idea, right?
Yeah.
And so keeping the helmet on was all a big part of that. And now we've gotten to the point where, we're not exactly spaghetti Western so much anymore. We're trying to expand the show into bigger things. So I think the helmet rule will eventually change as well. I think that's the one thing you'll see change from the old ways.
I'm not sure. I feel like they'll stick with it because it is very cool stylistically to see all the Mandalorians with their helmets on. But also, from a certain point of view, it's a lot easier for them on filming.
That is absolutely true. That might actually be the core of the whole decision right there. They may have thought, well, we need a stunt double in that suit most of the time. No offense to Pedro Pascal or anybody else, but most of the time we're doing a stunt double. So how do we get around that without having to CGI someone else's face onto, or Pedro's face onto someone else's? I got an idea. What if they never take their helmets off?
They'll just Judge Dredd.
Yeah. Well, not Stallone Judge Dredd, but...
Right.
But yeah, that could have been why the decision was made. Because we've never seen that before.
No, we have not.
Not in Legends, not anywhere has it been like, the way is to keep your helmet on all the time.
Never take the helmet off.
Ever, in front of
Even
anyone.
Death Watch was always taking their helmets off.
Yeah.
And they're where this group came from.
Yes.
They just went more extreme.
So yeah, I think Bo-Katan, her way is not correct. But she will be the leader of Mandalore, and she's going to learn a lot from Din and that mythosaur.
And the mythosaur.
Not that the mythosaur is going to sit her down.
The mythosaur
and
just
like,
looked
this
at her
is
and was
the
like,
way.
I choose you, Bo-Katan.
Do we think that she's going to go down there and try to tame that thing?
Maybe. Maybe she needs to prove to herself that she can do this.
I think she does need to prove to herself what she's all about. I think she's kind of lost the way.
Oh, yeah.
I know, terrible. So yeah, that's my closing argument, I guess. Din will teach Bo-Katan how to be the ruler of Mandalore in this odd sort of way. As for what happens to Din, then what is his end game? I don't know. All right, well, that is going to be all we got for this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell us who you think is the way. Is Din Djarin right here, or is Bo-Katan right here, or will we see some sort of merger of the two? And who ends up leading Mandalore? Or maybe my boy Paz Vizsla steps up and steals the show. Whatever you think, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.